Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. I figured it might be useful to just hop on a live stream, watch the markets. It's been a little while since we've done a live stream, so just hop on a live stream. Do one. How's everyone doing? Let me know how everyone's doing today, tonight, wherever you are. I'm just going to post the video in a couple different places, and then we'll dive in, see what's going on with the markets here. All right. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so not really too much happening right now. Bitcoin is still around 18.8, so not a whole lot has happened in the last week or so. I mean, if you just go to say like the daily time frame, over the last few days, not a whole lot has happened. So let's say if we take a date range, go back 7 days, we're actually all the way down here at around 17, but that was pretty short-lived. So more or less, we're still flirting with the upper 18K region, the lower 19K region, and of course, people want to see 20K break, right? That's what everyone's watching. That's the markets are somewhat just sitting still for a little bit, and I think a lot of it is people just simply waiting to see what Bitcoin does here. If you switch back to weekly time frames, there's no sideways movement here for Bitcoin, right? And this is again is why we have still yet to see any major fundamental shift in altcoin valuations against Bitcoin. It's just simply because Bitcoin has not given any of these coins the opportunity to do so. And so if it did, then if Bitcoin would start going sideways for a bit, then maybe that would catalyze other coins to make substantial moves. And again, we're not talking about daily moves or anything like that, because we recognize that moves on daily time frames do not represent necessarily a fundamental shift in the valuation of various cryptos against Bitcoin. What we want to see is Bitcoin go sideways. Remember, this was altcoin season, alt season as a lot of people like to call it. Here we also had one. It wasn't as it was a lot shorter lived than this one, but it was shorter lived because the end of August, Bitcoin went to the 20-week, and then once it went to the 20-week, that was where to focus was Bitcoin, not altcoins. Because again, what we've said before, that when Bitcoin is near the 20-week, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, or whether it just hugs the 20-week, most altcoins will bleed against Bitcoin. So I'd say for now, this is just kind of a wait and see game. We'll see if we come back down. We know that the bull market support band is all the way back down here. The current price for say the 20-week moving average is at around 12.9. The 21-week EMA is around 13.4. So that would need to hold to maintain the integrity of the bull market, but we're still really far away from that level. I mean, if we do come back down to that level, we'll certainly want to hold it, but there's again no guarantee that will happen in the immediate term. But always, as I've said before, right, no one has a crystal ball here. We don't know what's going to happen in the short term, but always be ready for a move like this, because again, this is where the bulls would come out to hold the line, just like they did over here at 10K. I mean, when Bitcoin went to 12K back over here, this candle right here took us right back down to 10K, which of course, as we know, corresponded to our bull market support band, which in fact we were able to hold as support. Make sure you guys, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. What I also want to do is we'll pull up the BLX. So here's our BLX, and then we will switch over to a weekly time frame. Note that it shows 19.4 because it just shows the close for the previous day. So this is where we are. Let's put on our regression fit here. So we're going to go to indicators, the regression bands. So that's where we are. The argument is the same, right? We're very much on course. Nothing has changed in the grand scheme of the market cycle. If anything, I would say that Bitcoin is slightly ahead of schedule, right? If anything, I would say Bitcoin is ahead of schedule, not on track. I know the thumbnail says on track, and I think it is because we just recognize that there's going to be a lot of fluctuations in here. It's not just going to stay on the regression band forever because we've had several, short-term bubbles that take us out of it before returning back into it. Here we even peaked above it slightly. And we will spend a lot of our time this market cycle likely above this regression band. So remember, this channel does not cater to day trading, right? It does not cater to anything like that. If you want to pretend like you're making money day trading, then you can do that. You can follow that on other channels. This channel is primarily geared for macro shifts in the market. So for those people that have no interest in trying to day trade these markets, because I think it just simply is too dangerous. It's a great way to lose a lot of money, and I just don't think it's worth the risk. But on this channel, we look more at macro shifts in the market to try to identify general times to be moving into the market and to be moving out of the market, right? So moving into the market phases and then moving out of the market phases. And then especially when you get these blow-off peaks, this is generally when, everyone wants to talk about how it's different this time. And, last time it was all about the ICO. This time it'll be all about institutional money. But again, there will come a day when even if Bitcoin, you guys know that I'm bullish on Bitcoin. I'm macro bullish on Bitcoin. I expect it to hit six figures in the next few years. But even when it does, or if and when it does, even in that scenario, we have to recognize that it's not necessarily different this time in the sense that it can't come back down. It's most likely the same with a lot of regards in that people will take profits and the price will come back down. However, you could argue that maybe institutional money will help curb the effects of the next bear market. I would still contend that the next halving will help curb the effects of the next bear market because I think the next peak will be closer to the next halving than the prior peak was to the prior halving. So because I think the next peak will be closer to the next halving, I think that the halving should operate in a way to help curb the effects of the bear market and make it so that it's not quite as brutal. And we've also seen that macro level volatility is in fact decreasing. So over the macro scale, we would expect it to not have as sharp of falls as we continue on through the years. So we'll see what happens, right? And we're going to follow the market cycle together. Remember to give the video a thumbs up if you guys like the content and subscribe. Let's get to 70,000 subscribers. But if you take a look, if you're just pragmatic about these types of things, right? And you take the perspective of me, which is essentially it would be nice if Bitcoin could break 20K, because if it could, then I think there's a good chance that a lot of altcoins could rally substantially. And I have my altcoin positions in the event that something like that were to happen. Be that as it may, we also need to recognize the fact that there is a decent chance that Bitcoin does not break 20K immediately, and that we come down and cool off a bit. I'm not saying that has to happen. Right? I mean, I get a lot of comments on the channel taking these types of comments and saying that's definitively what I meant. No, I don't know what will happen in the short term. I cannot tell you. I operate on macro strategies, and I just simply stick with that. And if you think about it, when you take a look at markets, we never know when these short-term bubbles are going to occur, right? We didn't know this one was going to occur in 2019. There were not very many people, if any. I'm sure there was some people, but not very many people that predicted Bitcoin to go up 4x in 2019 from the bottom, or almost 4x. Just like there probably were not a lot of people that saw the March dump coming when we were rallying back up to 10K and then we dumped all the way back down to 3,800. I don't think very many people saw a dump down to $3,800. So just wanted to to remind people that if you do see these types of moves, remember we can't really predict them, but I would say you should always be ready for these types of things. And with Bitcoin, that would mean, what that means essentially is it means you have your altcoin positions ready to rock and roll in the event that Bitcoin stabilizes here and goes sideways, or comes up and goes sideways, right? Or even comes down and goes sideways, right? You're ready. Your altcoin positions are ready to rock and roll in that scenario. However, there is a risk, right? And you guys know what the risk is. The risk is if it drops back down to the 20-week moving average, right? Which is still a long ways off. We're probably not gonna. It's not like we're testing the 20-week tomorrow, likely, but if we were to go to the 20-week, then again altcoins would likely bleed, and they can rebound if Bitcoin does. But if Bitcoin goes below the 20-week, then note that historically speaking, altcoins do tend to bleed against Bitcoin during that period of time. For instance, I don't consider Ethereum an altcoin, but if you look at Ethereum and look to see, okay, what does it do when Bitcoin goes below the 20-week? Historically speaking, and I'm not saying I sell all my Ethereum, because I never do, not in bear markets anyways, but historically speaking, converting Ether to Bitcoin at the weekly close of Bitcoin below the 20-week and then converting back when it goes above it has always resulted in accumulating more Ethereum. Now, you can figure out if the tax implications are worth it for your own situation. And again, I'm just kind of giving you guys just an idea of what could theoretically happen. But I mean, for now, Bitcoin is still relatively bullish, right? I mean, it's at 18.8. Momentum is a pretty compelling indicator, typically speaking, right? I mean, I think momentum carries a lot more weight than a lot of other indicators, and right now, for the last 2 months, Bitcoin has maintained a significant amount of momentum, and so if we find ourselves over the next few weeks, right? If we find ourselves with Bitcoin coming above, which I am skeptical about it happening, but if it does, this should be, if history is any indication, that should be a time when altcoins can really do well. Okay, that should be a time, if history is any indication, and then we could always argue if history should be any indication, but basically the point is if history is any indication and Bitcoin were to go to say 20K or so and start going sideways, then we would expect a lot of other coins to make moves. And in the short term, if Bitcoin drops, if Bitcoin were to drop down to 16K or something, in that event, then we know that a lot of coins would in fact have knee-jerk reactions to that, and they would likely bleed heavier than Bitcoin against USD, and they would likely bleed against Bitcoin as well. So in the event that something like that were to happen, as long as Bitcoin again stays well above the bull market support band, which again I would argue is the 20-week SMA, then I think in that scenario, these coins can bounce back, and in that scenario, if Bitcoin were to go to say 16K or something like that and go sideways well above the 20-week moving average, and Bitcoin were to cool off, then it could help the market take its eyes off Bitcoin for a few weeks, and people might speculate on alts. But again, I don't know when that move could happen. But we'll just see. We'll see what happens. I mean, right now we've been sitting in the upper 18K region, lower 19K region, more or less for 2 or 3 weeks now. So until something changes, until we get more of a definitive idea of whether this is going to happen, and we pop above it, or if we come back down and test the 20-week, which is all the way down here, right, and do something like that, and then bounce up and continue on, right? We'll just have to see what happens. 'Cause I don't know exactly when this will happen. I mean, I can tell you that we are pretty far above the 20-week moving average. If you go and look at, say, sorry, can you guys? I'm curious if you guys can hear my 1-month-old screaming in the background. All right, so let's continue on. So the one of the things I want to do is we'll just take a quick look at the price minus the 20-week over the 20-week just to see where things are. So this gives us an idea of how overvalued we are compared to, say, the 20-week moving average. So we're going to draw a line at the peak that we saw and go over and recognize, again, that we've been at this level before in more than one market cycle. We've been at this level, and we did see retracements back to the 20-week. So again, it doesn't have to happen. Back in 2019, we went a little bit higher. We went all the way up to 84% over the 20-week moving average. But I just want people to recognize that when Bitcoin does get this high above the 20-week, it's not really a matter of if it will correct. It's just a matter of when. And does that mean it could correct now? Yes. Or Bitcoin could rally to 25K and then correct. But it's more or less just a matter of when, because historically speaking, we know that Bitcoin will come back down during a bull market, even in a bull market, and test the 20-week. And I would say expect it to happen so that when it does happen, you're not freaking out, wondering what the hell's going on. So if we zoom in here, again, as we've showed before, right? This is our bull market support band, and this is what we always want to hold. And again, if you look at the last cycle, and go from, say, like the prior all-time high, and go over. I'm not saying this has to happen, right? I'm not saying this has to happen, but I just want you guys to be aware of it because we've been in similar places before. We've had moves to the prior all-time high that then revisited the 20-week a couple weeks later, and then after revisiting the 20-week a couple weeks later, from peak to local peak, it only took approximately 2 months to go back up, right? So you can kind of see what happened, right? It came up, came back down to the 20, back up, back down to the 20, back up, back down to the 20, and so on and so forth, right? This was the last bull market. It basically just operated on just going up and back down to the 20, right? Here's another one, up here, and then back down to the 20. Here's another one, up, back down. So we always were operating with, okay, we get above the 20-week, and then we come back down to it. And then we get above it, and then we come back down to it. In the same manner, we had the final one, but in this one we broke it, and then it was the bad news bears for the foreseeable future, right? And then we held this bull market support band as resistance throughout all of 2018. And then when we broke it, typically when we break this channel, things get really bullish really quickly. You see we broke it here, and we went up. Once you break below, we tend to drop substantially, just like we did here. When we went up, when we got above it, we rallied pretty quickly. You get below it, dropping substantially. Okay, and again, the third time we get above it, now we held it as support. So this is the key difference this time than you could argue prior times during this market cycle, right? Prior times during this market cycle, you could argue, well, hey, we actually held it here. And if you go back to the last market cycle, let's actually go all the way back. So in the in way over here, I mean, this is the bull market support band. You can see we were holding it as support all the way up, and then we broke below. But during the first cycle, before the bull market got kicked off, it really only took breaking it once, and then we essentially held it as support. because it's the bull market support band. So we're basically right around this level, and then in the last cycle, it took two attempts. So the first attempt to go above failed, and then the second attempt to go above succeeded, and we held it as support. And then during this market cycle, the first attempt failed here, the second attempt failed here, and then now we're on our third attempt, and we've seen at least one success because the 20-week moving average did hold as support. So again, I mean, I know it's easy for people to get super bullish when Bitcoin rallies in the short term, and believe me, I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm bullish on Bitcoin over the next few years too, but I often will see a lot of dumb money pouring into the market when you see 100% rallies. And in hindsight, it might not be dumb money in 3 years. If Bitcoin's at say 100K, someone buying at 20K be like, yeah, that was fine. But in the short term, sometimes it can appear maybe not like dumb money, but let's just call it not so smart money, coming in at like 19.5 at the prior all-time high. Right, the primary time to accumulate Bitcoin was in when we're in this band. And there's a good chance we're going to come back down into it during this market cycle before going up to a new global paradigm shift and what one Bitcoin means. Remember, I mean, like over here, this paradigm shift was around a $20 Bitcoin, so like it's like dinner. Then you get to like $1,000 Bitcoin, you're talking about like a new laptop, maybe a $20,000 Bitcoin, a new car. If we get up to like $140,000 Bitcoin, you're getting into the realm of house payment, like a down payment on a house, or to buy a house outright, depending on what the valuation of the house is. So again, we're here for the long haul, and we'll see. We'll see if we end up testing the 20-week, and if we do, in a world where in the cryptoverse, if we do come back down and test it over the next few weeks or few months, and we hold it as support again, then this would be very compelling for the integrity of a multi-year bull market. So we'll see what happens, right? We'll see if the bulls can in fact come out and hold the line. And if they can, great. If not, we're kicking the can down the road. And ultimately, I again, if you guys follow the channel, I don't think we're gonna see a $300,000 Bitcoin next year. I know there's a lot of news, headlines going around the media predicting 300,000 Bitcoin in 2021 or $288,000 Bitcoin in 2021. I don't think that's happening. And I am bullish on Bitcoin. But if you just take a look at it, I mean, to give you an idea, to get to let's say a $300,000 Bitcoin, like that one article from that bank suggests, let's put that where that would be. So let's go and look. End of 2021 would be here. Sorry, let me fix that. Let me remove this one. So end of 2021 is here. So in order to get to a $300,000 Bitcoin, which is what that headline that I'm sure a lot of you saw was, it would need to get basically up in this region. So it would fly past our prior theoretical tops, right? It would just fly past it. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm just saying the probability of it happening is probably not very high. So it would essentially just need to go straight up for the next 12 months, right? I mean, at this rate, I mean, this is a logarithmic scale, obviously, but it would need to do something like this over the next 12 months to get to $300,000. And I'm sorry, I just don't think that's likely. If you take a look at the trend angles of the bull markets, and you draw the angles, again, the angle, if you're trying to replicate this on your own TradingView setup, remember the angle will be dependent on the aspect ratio that you use. So if you're not getting the same angle as me, that's fine. You just need to compare one aspect ratio angles to another. For instance, this bull market had a trend angle on this aspect ratio of approximately 77 degrees, as measured from, say, this bottom over here. Let's just measure it as from the first successful test of the 20-week. This one was about 60 degrees. And then this one was about 40 degrees, 41 degrees. So the rate at which Bitcoin goes up during the bull market, we know is going down. Like it's not likely going to maintain the same rate of change as it did during the last market cycle, which was slower than the cycle before that, which was slower than the cycle before that. So if we were to draw a trend angle from, say, holding the 20-week here, to get to a $300,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2021, we would have to start going up a lot quicker than we did last cycle. And I mean, obviously, it's not just a straight trend line. It's more of a parabola. But you get the general idea. I mean, it would have to, even if it did something like this, it would have to ultimately get to that point. And I just simply don't see that happening that quickly. However, I just changed the aspect ratio, so let's go back to the aspect ratio I was using. However, if you are more pragmatic and think, okay, well, what if it takes a little bit longer, and it happens, later on, then the trends are still very much intact, right? We're seeing, the rate of change is going down from one cycle to another. The ROI is also diminishing from one cycle to another, as measured from the bottom to the top. 45 weeks to go up 52,000% as measured from the bottom to the top. 105 weeks to go up 51,000%. And actually this one I didn't even do justice because I could go lower. I won't measure this wick, but if you go say down to this candle, right here at the bottom of the regression band, it's around 63,000%. This one, if we get it perfect, it's around 51,000%. The next market cycle as measured from the bottom was right here, and that one gave us about 11,000 or 12,000% as measured from the bottom over 153 weeks. So we had 45 weeks, 104 weeks, 153 weeks as measured from this bottom. If we go up, and if it were to go up, if you believe in the 4-year cycle, which I don't, but if you do, one comment I got recently on the channel was, hey, I know you don't believe in the 4-year cycle, but enough people watch your channel that some of them do, and if they do prescribe to it, what would that look like? So I can try to at least explain if the 4-year cycle theory is true, which I don't think it is, but if it is true, where could that put Bitcoin? And so basically, if it is true, and we were to expect diminishing returns still, then it's possible we get up to $100,000 Bitcoin. But I think it's less likely. But I mean, it could still fall in line with the same trend, right? 63,000%. I mean, this is over 45 weeks, 104 weeks, 153, and then 154. That doesn't really seem to follow the trend, but I mean, it is what it is, right? So that's why I say it's worth considering that it could take longer, right? It's worth considering that it could take longer, and in my opinion, it will take longer. Seeing something like this where we continue on up, and maybe it peaks in, say, the end of 2022 at the earliest. So I'm going to delete the trend angles because I've changed the aspect ratio, so now they don't line up anymore. So I've rendered them useless. But if you just take a look at, say, the macroscopic move, and you say, okay, could this make sense? And again, I'm not trying, I mean, I've been pretty harsh on the 4-year cycle theory before. I'm not trying to be harsh on it. I'm just trying to say, okay, take a step back. We recognize that it could happen. Is it likely to happen? Probably not. And if it doesn't happen, we'll be ready for it, because it essentially just means that we're just continuing on the same trajectory that we were already on. In my opinion, if the 4-year cycle theory is true, we're actually changing our direction, because the only 4-year cycle that exists is the last cycle, not the cycle before that one or the cycle before that one. Okay, so the only one that exists is the last cycle. So if you look at this over the macro scale, and we say, okay, this was 45 weeks, 63,000%, 104 weeks, 51,000%, 153 weeks, 12,000%, maybe as measured from the bottom to the next top, which could go, I mean, I contend it would probably peak between 100 to 200K. I don't know exactly where that would be, but probably somewhere in that ballpark. And probably, I tend to think sometime in 2023, but I've contended that I could see it happening as late as Q4 of 2022, or as early as Q4 of 2022, or as late as Q2 of 2024, coinciding with the next Bitcoin halving. But if we were to continue, say, a similar trend, this is just linear extrapolation, which is somewhat dubious because you only have 3 data points, right? You can't really say a whole lot. But then again, if it were obvious, if the trend were obvious, then there would be no point in talking about it, right? If literally every, if we had, say, 25 cycles and they all did the exact same thing, then what would be the point of debating it? So let's just be a little bit more pragmatic on the channel and say, you know what? If we get to 6 figures next year, great. Is it likely to happen? Probably not. But if it does happen, we'll sure as hell be ready for it. So this is generally what I think. And of course, too, if you guys don't like the bottom to peak measurement, you could also measure peak to peak, which I would argue is not as useful. But this one was 130 weeks in between, and then this one was 211 weeks in between. So for it to be another 211 weeks in between, which would be exactly the last cycle, then it would put us peaking in December of 2021. However, this is not the trend, right? The trend is getting longer. So if we were to go to, say, 300, so we went from 130 to 211, if we were to go to, say, 300 weeks or something, then it would put us in the summer of 2023. And then finally, if you want to measure, say, bottom to bottom, we have 68 weeks, followed by 165 weeks, followed by 206 weeks. So if the last cycle were to repeat identically and we were to go out another 206 weeks, that would put the next bottom in November of 2022. Or if we say, you know what, it seems like the trend is getting longer, then it might put the next bottom in 2023, maybe late 2023, could even be 2024. Just following that same type of logic, basically. So and we'll keep an eye on the price of Bitcoin here. I know it's currently at 18.7, so it's still doing pretty well in terms of this macroscopic, or maybe not macroscopic, but short-term bubble, if you will. Currently at 18.7. Keep an eye on what it does over the next few weeks, because again, if it does come back down, then this is the bull market support band that you're going to want to keep an eye on. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's try to get to 70,000 subscribers. I think we're currently, let's see where we are. We're currently at 67,000. So let's try to get to 70,000 subscribers. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe so you're here for the duration of the market cycle, so we can follow it through and be here every step of the way, right? We want to be here every step of the way, follow the market cycle as it plays out. See what happens, live through the experiences, wait until we get times like this, sideways movement above the 20-week, bullish for altcoins, testing the 20-week, focusing on Bitcoin, sideways above the 20-week, bullish for altcoins, going straight up, eyes are on Bitcoin, going straight down, eyes are on Bitcoin, going sideways above the 20-week, bullish for altcoins, getting above the prior all-time high and going above and going sideways. Again, bullish for altcoins. So a lot of different scenarios here that could play out, and of course we'll be there every step of the way. So one of the other things we also want to talk about is of course the ether valuation, because historically speaking, we know that the ether move against Bitcoin tends to start in either mid-December or mid-January. So let me pull that chart up in a second. I'll just quickly pull it up on a different screen so I'm not finicking with it over there. Okay, just give me a second. I'm just going to pull up the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation, see how it's doing. And if you guys do have questions, I will try to get to them in a few minutes. So probably posting them right now. I'm probably not going to see them just as a fair warning. But if you post them once I say, okay, let's take some questions, I'll probably see them. Okay, so we're just going to move this one over here. So I pulled it up. This is our Ether Bitcoin valuation. And actually, let's keep an eye on Bitcoin. We're at 18.5 now. $18.6. Just want to see. I don't know why the hell we're looking at a weekly time frame right now. Let's go back to the 1 hour since we're doing a live show. Yeah, so we're at 18.6. Again, I told you guys a few weeks ago, right? This will be a very risky time to buy Bitcoin, considering how high it is, right? It's so high above the 20-week. The risk levels are very over and inflated, especially how quickly they got there. And we'll see what happens. I mean, we say this, and then Bitcoin could easily just turn back around and go back to 19K or something, but mainly I just want to protect new people from themselves getting into the crypto markets. They see things going up and up and up and don't recognize the risks that are associated with that. So, I mean, you can get lucky, but again, you can get lucky gambling too. So we'll see what happens here. Again, if it does dump, expect a knee-jerk reaction from altcoins. If it holds a bullish level above the 20-week, right? If it goes to say 16K, 17K, expect a knee-jerk reaction from altcoins, but they can also recover rather quickly in that environment. So that's basically what I want to say there. And also note too that DXY, so the US dollar currency index, has been doing pretty badly for the last several months, hence Bitcoin's rally. Today was a good day for USD, the DXY currency index, and in the same manner, today was a bad day for Bitcoin, which is pretty much expected. And again, if the bears do come out, I would still contend they're friendly neighborhood bears. They're not they're not the grizzly bears. Not at this point in the market cycle. Just the local your friendly neighborhood bears, little koala bears, panda bears. But that's okay because I'm sometimes a friendly neighborhood bear coming out to just systematically take profits in a short-term bubble, and you know, if it goes back down, then great. Like I can reinvest it. While Bitcoin is figuring out what the hell it wants to do, let's go look at Ethereum. So again, this metric here, this valuation, the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation, is one that we will keep an eye on closely throughout the next 4 months, because as we know, the turnaround point for it is typically in December or January, right? This one started in the first week of January. This one started the first week of January. This one started the second week of December. This one started the third week of December. This one started the second week of January. So historically speaking, we have not seen a major move of Ethereum against Bitcoin until mid-December through mid-January. And right now, you could argue that the local bottom could theoretically be 0.0266789, or a little bit lower, 0.0265, somewhere in that area. But it also might not be. So we'll certainly keep an eye on that. Remember, the turnaround point tends to not come until at least another couple weeks from now, through maybe 6 weeks, 7 weeks from now. But if it does rally, right, or even if it comes back over here and then rallies from here, this still could be a turning point for Ether. I mean, Bitcoin, you guys remember the summer, right? This is when Ethereum stole the spotlight in the summer and was doing quite well. And then Bitcoin stole it back. It's like it's a dance with dragons, if you will. Bitcoin stole the spotlight back. But if Bitcoin volatility cools off, especially at a level above the 20-week, Ethereum's right there to take, to just take over again, and to, to take the reins from Bitcoin and to go on its own run against Bitcoin. Okay, I don't know where it's going to take you against USD. We like to look at the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation. And remember if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Let's get to 70,000 subscribers, and we'll be here every step of the way. So subscribe to the channel if you like the content, and give the video a thumbs up. The like to viewer ratio is about 25%. That's pretty bad. So 25% is pretty low. That's only double the Ethereum dominance, right, or something like that. I'm curious though, like where do you guys see Bitcoin heading over the next few weeks? Do a majority of you think that Bitcoin will go back and test the 20-week over the next couple months, or do you think we're going to break 20K and head on up to 25K? What do you guys think? Vikrant says, I wonder if Ben ever thought he was live, but he wasn't and was talking to himself. There was actually one time where I accidentally went live and I was like creating a thumbnail. So basically everyone watched me create a thumbnail and I didn't even know I was live. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that 20K, as I talked about in that recent video, that 20K could be the new 10K, right? I mean, it could be this level that takes us a while to break. This was that was around 95. If we go up to 10K, it was around this point. So I mean, it could be one of those things that it just takes us a while to break through it, like we saw with 10K. And it could be too that we break through it like we did break through 10K back in 2019, but it's not sustainable, because you can see in this environment, when it rallies this quickly, it does not automatically mean, of course, a lot of people confuse what I'm saying, right? When I say that I don't think Bitcoin's going to get to a sustainable 20K this early, I'm not saying that it can't hit 20K and go above it. We can always have short-term bubbles. I mean, I certainly would not have expected a 14K Bitcoin in 2019, but my point was a 14K Bitcoin in 2019 was likely not sustainable, just like a 20K Bitcoin this early is likely not sustainable. We can hit it, we can go above it, just like we did in 2019 with 10K. So I mean, even if we did this and then came back down, I don't know that would be sustainable. So that's the point when we talk about getting to a sustainable 20K. Because yeah, we can always break 20K, we can break 25K, we could go to 30K. But is it sustainable is another question. I mean, honestly, like my preference, I mean, the market doesn't care about my preference, right? But my preference would honestly be to see Bitcoin go back down in the short term. Like, personally speaking, that's what I would want to see, because I think there's a lot of people that have come into the market, they've thrown a lot of money into the market, and I mean, I think it needs to be a wake-up call. Better learn the lesson now than learn it when you might be pouring money into Bitcoin at 100K or something, and learn the lesson. Figure out, okay, do I chase pumps? Is it wise to chase pumps, or do you come in when it's relatively calm in the market? Right. So do you come in like in places like this when it's relatively calm in the market? And remember, even during the last cycle, there are times when the price just goes sideways for a few months, right? I mean, here's 70 days of sideways movement. Here's 140 days of sideways movement. So don't underestimate the chance that Bitcoin at some point could just get really boring for like 4 months. And like it's super exciting one day, and then all of a sudden it just goes sideways for 4 months. If it does that, it's probably a good thing, honestly. If it were to go sideways, above the 20-week for 4 months, that's honestly a good thing. So expect things like that to happen during the market cycle. Don't just think it has to go up continuously. Yeah, I mean, I understand that a lot of people think it's different this time because of institutions, but I mean, it's not like you can't argue that hedge funds are never going to take profits, right? Especially if you have hedge funds buying on behalf of their clients. If their clients want to sell, or if these people are smart too. I mean, they're not going to like watch Bitcoin go to like 150K and then be okay with it dropping back down to 40K. They're gonna want to secure profits, and then the narrative is going to be completely different, right? Some people are saying it's crashing. This is not a crash. This is, I mean, it might. I'm not saying it can't crash, but this is not. This would not be defined as a crash. Oh, guys, remember to if you do want to get in on the Black Friday deal, make sure you check out the link in the description below. You will get access to the weekly premium reports, the weekly premium videos, the risk dashboard, which is what I use to trade, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, and the TradingView indicators. So if you guys want to use the TradingView indicators, you'll get access to this on the premium list. So check out the Black Friday deal. I'll let it go on a little while longer. So if you guys have questions, let me just say a couple more things. So I posted the Black Friday deal in the comments. And remember, if you guys want, we also have a public Telegram channel, and we're almost at 10,000 people. So if you want to get in on the public Telegram channel and say you were there before 10,000 people, then check it out. With that said, I mean, we can probably take questions. Make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and I'll try to answer questions if there are any. If you get the Black Friday deal, it's perpetual as long as you don't cancel. Did I read all the books in the back? No, because half of them are my wife's books on nursing, which I did not read. Do I foresee a substantial increase in total market cap? I mean, over the next few years, yeah, I think that the market cap could go to, I don't know if it'll make it to 10 trillion, plus or minus a few trillion, probably minus a few trillion, probably not plus, but again, as I said before, what's a few trillion among friends? So yeah, I think the market cap will go up over the next few years substantially. Rob says, "Tell me more about this Bitcoin phenomenon." Um, I think the only real thing you need to know about Bitcoin is this is the macro trend, right? in terms of the price. I mean, if you're wanting to know more of the fundamental stuff, that we don't talk about that as much on this channel. The reports come out on the weekend, usually Saturday or Sunday. Someone said, because when people talk about this guy, he's this man with so many people talking about it these days, it just doesn't make sense that it's going down like that. Because when people talk about something, its value always increases. What do you think? I mean, people were talking about Bitcoin in late 2017, and that didn't stop it from crashing, right? Again, as I said, this is not a crash, right? This right now is just natural volatility. We have not had a crash. Honestly, you could argue that this move down to 16.1 wasn't really a crash. I mean, it recovered quite quickly. This, by no means, at this point, is a crash. We're still at 18. We're almost at 18.8, right? This is still not a crash at this point. Doesn't mean a crash isn't coming, but it's still holding on right now. Do I invest in anything other than crypto? Yeah, of course. I invest in like equities. I don't really do private one-on-one stuff much anymore. It's just too hard to keep up with everyone. I don't really follow many other crypto YouTubers anymore just because I don't have time. If I'm watching YouTube, it generally is not crypto because I don't want to taint my own views of the market by watching someone else's analysis. But there are some other good ones. So if I am on YouTube, I'm usually watching other stuff. I have looked at on-chain metrics for Bitcoin, yes. I really hope we get some volatility on the stream because a lot of times we don't, but we'll see if we can get some volatility here. Someone said we're testing the 100-day moving average. So we'll pull it up and see. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think we're anywhere close to that, right? So yeah, we're still pretty far away from that. I mean, that's all the way at 13.2. The 20-day. So the 20-day moving average is not something that is really that reliable. It doesn't really mean much of anything because even if it breaks, it doesn't mean the price is instantly going to crash. But when it holds as support, it can be a pretty good like when it does hold as support when it's going up. It is a pretty good indication that it's going to continue rallying. But when it breaks, right, I mean, it held as support here and then it continued right back up. But when it breaks, the counterpoint is not also true. Like just because it breaks doesn't mean it's going to crash, right? But when it holds, it means that, and a lot of times it means that it can rally up a lot in the short term. So that would be one. And you can actually see it happened over here when it went to 16K on the weekly time frame. Don't ignore the wick, just look at the candle. right down to the 20-day, and then back up. And right now the 20 days is currently at around 18.2. So maybe have your eyes on 18.2 in the event of a correction. Even then, I don't think 18.2 would be that much of a correction. What kind of computer am I using? It's a Lenovo ThinkPad. It's the ThinkPad. Price prediction for Ether Bitcoin if Bitcoin corrects by 20%. Well, I said that if it does correct, then Ether Bitcoin would probably correct a little bit harder. But then if Bitcoin holds bullish territory above the 20-week, right, then that could be the starting point for Ethereum to take the show, right? So again, these coins will typically have knee-jerk reactions if Bitcoin does correct. But as long as it remains bullish, it's pretty good. Michael says I shill for you for free because your videos made me wealthy. Well, thanks for shilling the videos. I appreciate it. Hi Ben, don't you think this is an obvious double top and it'll test 16K again? Again, I think what's obvious, what people appear as obvious is not necessarily the case. I mean, like if everyone expected something to happen, it would have already happened. Like if the entire market expected it to happen, it would have already happened, right? If the entire market expected it to go to 25K tomorrow, then it would have already been at 25K today. But I mean, what I think is completely irrelevant, right? Because again, I don't think anyone can realistically predict short-term moves. It's more so how do you react to them, right? And in the event that Bitcoin were to go up a lot and go into a major blow-off top, it's not whether you could predict that were to happen. Because it's just if it does happen, will you take advantage of it? In the same manner, right? If it drops back down, will you take advantage of getting into the market, more exposure into the market, especially if you were taking profits in say a short-term bubble? But again, there's no guarantee here that we're going to have a correction. We're still at 18.8, and we've been around 18.8 for a few days. We've gone up to 19.5, 19.4. We've been as low as 18.2. It's still business as usual so far. Someone asked, "What's the difference between your YouTube videos you produce now and the subscription?" The ones on the subscription are more involved, and we talk about like the risk levels for the different coins. We go into more detail. The videos tend to be like 30 to 60 minutes each week. And as the market cycle goes on, we'll probably do less and less public videos and more premium videos. How do I live my life being a trader? I don't really consider myself to be a trader. This is not full time for me. I do something else full time. Right now we're still around 18.8, so nothing major has happened yet. Reminder to subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content. We're almost at 68,000. If we get 202 people, we'll be at 68,000 subs. What do I think about Ethereum in the next 3 months? Well, I mean, if history is an indication, then it should have a generally good next 3 months. But we'll see. If we go over to say like the weekly time frame, and then plot on the that band. Yeah, so I mean we're still well above the the accumulation band, right? According to this, the fair value is still less than $300. But we can spend a lot of time outside of the fair value region, right? A lot of time. Yeah, my initial goal was to get to 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and then the market took off, and the rest is history. In my view, is a $300,000 cycle top feasible? Not this market cycle, but probably the next one. And we probably would adjust that prediction based on where the next peak is, right? Yeah, we just put out a video on Link like 5 hours ago, so just go watch that. It's actually come down a good bit here against Bitcoin. If you go to the daily, let's switch that to a log scale, and then put on the Link Bitcoin Fit. We are getting back close to the bottom, right? So, I mean, we know that the exponential fit won't last forever, right? We've said this from the beginning. We said this last year, right? We said it in 2019. We said that this exponential fit will just simply not last forever. But it's kind of optically pleasing for as long as it does last, right? I mean, we said it's not going to last forever all the way back over here, and it still has trended on this channel. So we're coming back down to the bottom of it. We have dipped below it before, so I don't think we can't dip below it, right? We've gone below it. We are getting close to the bottom. And again, I'm not saying that it will definitely hold, because we just simply don't know if it would, but because at some point it's going to not hold anymore, and I would imagine at some point it will go sideways, or create some different pattern. But for now, this is historically the trend we've been on. Everyone keeps talking about XRP. I'm just curious what it's 55 cents, so. Yeah, I mean, this rally was not. I would say that a lot of short-term bubbles are not expected, just like the one in 2019 wasn't expected. And 2019, it's not like we had institutional money pouring in like every other day. Just don't underestimate short-term bubbles. I mean, obviously, any short-term bubble will carry its own narrative. Don't underestimate them, but also don't assume they will go up forever. Yeah, well, the price is still not doing a whole lot. I guess we can stay on a bit longer, but it's pretty. The market is not really moving a ton right now. It's still at around 18.8, 18.9. What do I think of the ADA Bitcoin pattern? I don't know. I haven't looked at it recently. This is the chart we had from way back when, because we back in like a year ago we were talking about this amazing accumulation range for ADA against Bitcoin. And we are back. We actually are, we are in this accumulation range again because we ADA pumped against Bitcoin, but then Bitcoin pumped against ADA. And now we're right back down in here. I think that ADA is a pretty decent hedge against Ethereum, and I do own some. I like how everyone's so focused on companies buying Bitcoin when a lot of these companies no one had even heard of before. But some just some small company decided to just put some of their reserve assets into Bitcoin, and then obviously now everyone knows about the company. I would argue it was more of a it was you could argue that it was a marketing thing, right? I own Polkadot as well. I own both Polkadot and ADA. UC says, oh, Nano. Yeah, I haven't looked at that one in a while. We can pull it up though. If you guys have some coins you guys want me to pull up, we can pull them up and see how they're doing. Um, so Nano's, yeah, it's pretty ugly trend against Bitcoin so far. Maybe it has rebounded some. Actually, I don't know what it's doing against USD. More or less, has just been going up and down for the last, 2 years or so. So again, these coins are not going to significantly make moves until Bitcoin gets to a stable level and starts going sideways. I think someone asked for Dash as well, so we'll pull up Dash and see what that one's doing. Yeah, so it has had a local. So in November, it was at around 431,000 sats. So now it's rallied back up and came back down a little bit. It's 529,000. I mean, the problem with these types of things are that you always want to chase, right, these local bottoms, but so far the macro trend down has not changed. So I mean, yeah, that could be the bottom, but it also might not be. And an example where it might not be is if Dash were to, or if Bitcoin were to absolutely tank to the 20-week, then we would expect Dash to tank even more against Bitcoin. Stellar. So actually, Stellar was one of those ones that has actually outperformed Bitcoin for a lot of the year. That's a pretty nasty move though. Um, yeah, 18 down to 6. I don't own this. I'm not actively buying or anything with Stellar. So let me go to a weekly time frame. So this is one that has outperformed Bitcoin. This is XLM USD, but let's look at XLM Bitcoin. So you can see this major move it had recently. But again, we would still contend that as long as Bitcoin volatility remains high, there's no guarantee that this pump will continue. I mean, it could just come straight back down and then continue on. So as long as Bitcoin volatility stays high, whether it's going up or down, I would not expect any major moves from any coins. Yeah, you can have some pumps, but I would not expect any major, like 10x moves. At least not any in, say, like the top 25, right? Not any in the top 25 until Bitcoin starts going sideways. And even then, I mean, 10x is absurd for most of the coins in the top 25. But I mean, even if it were like, say, 2x, 3x, I mean, like an $800, $900 Ethereum would be pretty significant. And I don't think there's any chance of that happening until Bitcoin cools off and cools off for the volatility. Yeah, Polkadot. We'll pull up Polkadot really quick. So let's switch it over to like a daily time frame. This is one I am accumulating, right? I've said that many times on stream, on videos. I just argue that this is just more or less an accumulation phase for Polkadot. All right, what other questions do you guys have? VeChain. We'll take a quick look at VeChain. Against Ether, it's still within this zone that it's been in for a pretty long period of time. Let's do a general selling region. Yeah, I don't know. I think my kids are starting to get pretty upset, so I got to get going. But if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up, and remember we do have the Black Friday deal in the description below if you guys want to join in on that. But I got to get going because my kids are starting to get a little freaked out. So I'll see what's going on with them. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll keep an eye on what Bitcoin's doing, certainly on what Ethereum's doing. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time. Bye.